All right, we are live and ready to start the week. What is this thing? This is fascinating. Hi, friends. It is Monday. My Instagram app has totally changed. Hi, guys. Thanks for being here. Come on in the room. Very excited to join in and get this party started on a Monday morning. It is not even Monday, but TGIM, as I say, thank God it is Monday. It could be worse. Hey, Isabel, love seeing you here. Hey, Awkwardly Pretty. I love seeing all of y'all here hanging out with me on your lunch break. Hey, Wit. I'm Maisha T. Hill. I am the guide of Check Your Privilege. There are other collectives of educators who also work and teach on this platform, but I am the main guide here, and I'm grateful to be here with y'all on a Monday morning. Thanks for being here, Thriving Toddler. I'm not feeling the best, so I'm going to practice what I preach. I'll be here for a few minutes, and then we will go from there. Carolyn, a couple updates, but before we get into that, let's go through our house rules. You guys know when you come to our house, we got some rules you got to keep in mind. Yay, great. I'm so glad you got your son down for a nap too. My kids are COVID schooling, so that's awesome. I am a black settler on the Muwekma Ohlone land here in the Oakland, greater San Francisco Bay Area. This is my way of giving reverence to the land. You guys, I got it. Go ahead and in the comments, if you know the land that you have settled on, go ahead and put that land in the comments below. So I see Susquehannock land. Again, y'all know my pronunciations aren't always the best, but go ahead and put the land that you are giving reverence to. We do land reverence because we want to tell the truth that this is not our land, and due to settler colonialism, due to the westward expansion, Spanish colonization, this land was taken from our ancestors, the indigenous ancestors who were the original beings of this land. And so we always want to give reverence so that we can tell the truth, because colonization and decolonization are an ongoing process. We don't want to just give reverence, but we also want to give reparations. So if you know how to give reparations to the indigenous tribes, please do that and tell the truth. Let's start telling the truth of the story of the land that we've all settled on. Thanks for being here from Costa Rica, Musqueam in British Columbia. Amazing. You guys remember that we're here living the best we can, thriving with our mental challenges in 3 pandemics: racism, COVID-19, mental differences, or for some folks, mental illness. Here at Check Your Privilege, we don't pay attention to the trolls. We block, bless, and report. So make sure that you block and bless comments that are not mentally appropriate. Don't respond, because that's oftentimes what trolling is, an attention-seeking behavior. And so let's not acknowledge trolls. Let's just keep it moving. Good to see you from San Francisco. Last thing is, we don't center whiteness here. And remember, guys, I always tell you every week that this is not our platform. Instagram can shut us down at any given time. So click the link in bio and join the mailing list, because every week we send you guys something to read, something to do, something to watch. Always encouraging you guys to continue on your anti-racism journeys. And that's what our motto here is: self-care first. So we don't want to inundate you all the time, but we do want to give you access to information to keep you accountable as a co-conspirator on your anti-racism journey. And lastly, remembering that bell hooks reminds us that shaming is one of the deepest tools of imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy, because shame produces trauma and trauma produces paralysis. And that quote was by bell hooks. So here we do our best to keep this a shame-free space. We're not perfect. We're all human. But again, that's why we block, bless, and report, because we know why trolls are here. So we don't want to give our power away by participating in shaming someone for having a different belief than we do. Seriously. Really excited, guys. This week we got 2 workshops happening. I believe there was a new quote. We got our team is growing, interns and team members. So we have Check Your Privilege, Create Equity is this Friday with myself and Eliana, Constanza Eliana. So if you're in that, amazing. Can't wait to see you Friday morning. If you need a scholarship, the information is there. So if you can't afford it, we do our best here to make sure that everyone has access. Okay, so if you need a scholarship for that workshop, you can go ahead and shoot us an email. The email's on that landing page, and we want to make sure everyone has access to that content. Also, what's tomorrow is our September cohort of Breaking the Addiction to Privilege. Really excited about that workshop, really excited to see where we're going to go with that. This is our second cohort. We do them once a month for the rest of this year, so there'll be October, November, and December. Again, that will also have a scholarship, again, because you know what? We know how capitalism works, and we know that not everyone can afford what we do. All right, friends, so that's my excitement of the week as far as courses, but I really want to come in and do a couple things. I want to talk about racial battle fatigue. If you guys don't know much about racial battle fatigue, I will share it in the stories before I go. I already did a video about it and why it's so important that we take care of our mental health as we survive COVID-19, racism, and mental differences. But let's talk about it real quick. There's a lot of great resources on what that is, and some of us even call it activist burnout, because what oftentimes happens is that we as activists, and as me as a guide or educator, we put so much of ourself into this work that we don't really recognize and realize when we're burning out, okay? And so activist racial battle fatigue was coined by Dr. William Smith, and it's an ongoing cumulative stress and the result of coping with a less than ideal hostile or unsupportive environments. This really happens for Black, Indigenous people of color than any other race, but however, activists can also experience signs of activism burnout. You guys will get all the resources on what those signs are, again, in the story when I'm done. But some signs of racial battle fatigue, what does that look like? You get tension, headaches, and backaches. Yep, been there. Elevated heart rate, extreme fatigue, loss of appetite, elevated blood pressure. Some of the emotional or psychological signs of racial battle fatigue are that constant anxiety and worrying, inability to sleep, conflict-specific dreams, so dreaming about negative thoughts all the time, frustration, hypervigilance. We could talk about that. We could do a whole class on hypervigilance in the social justice movements. Emotional and social withdrawal, keeping quiet, resentment, denial, that whole cycle of grief is part of those symptoms around racial battle fatigue. So what are some signs that you are becoming fatigued on your journey of actively becoming anti-racist? We went through that, but it's almost like a burnout, a loss of motivation. Oftentimes we say we give up before we get started because we're not recognizing that we're actually burning out. We're burning the wick by both ends, and we're not necessarily paying attention to our body's call and our body's response to rest. Because we get into this work thinking that we can fix hundreds of years of white supremacy in a day, which is why we always encourage you to niche down your journey, because if you break it down with quarterly goals, it's just like goal setting 101, y'all, you can accomplish a lot more, because this is not a marathon, this is not a sprint, this is not a race, it is a lifelong journey. And so, nothing really gets me down emotionally when I've wasted my day and effort into something and I have it all crumble right in front of me. And that's how white supremacy works, right? We see the injustices on Black lives. We see the racism. We see the blatant and explicit racism from the White House. And we're all trying to actively fight against it, right? So we're fighting against the current of racism, but trying to take care of ourselves and take care of our families during COVID-19. And so, life is always going to throw us curves on this journey, but we have to remember that we have to have some soul care in this process. We're always reminding you, all the educators, to what's your soul care plan? What's your self-care plan? If you follow me over on at Maisha T, I give y'all a self-care challenge for the week, because it's important to remember that we have to keep fighting. We have to be a voice. We have to do this. We have to stay actively engaged, but you are no good to anyone in this movement, especially if you are a Black or a brown leader, if you are burnt out all the time. This is why we have at Brown Sisters Speak a therapy stipend, because we want to make sure while you are surviving racism and COVID-19, you have access to healing. This is why we remind you, if you are a white or white passing person, make sure on this anti-racism journey you have a therapist, because you are doing some really deep soul level healing work. Why AC tells us all the time our souls are on the line. So what are some ways that we can make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and not burning out on this journey? I always say you can pray or meditate. No matter what your religious background, prayer or meditation can set the stage for transformation. It's what you need to speak yourself into being, and meditation is how you quiet your mind in the moment. One of the things that we do in our upper division and Saturday schools, we set a weekly goal. It's called Just 1 Minute. What is that 1 minute way that we'll take care of ourselves in process? So what can you do in 1 minute, once a day, to just ground yourself into yourself instead of being overstimulated by the content you're watching or the things that you're taking on? Something else that you can do to really kind of guard yourself and when you're experiencing like this burnout or racial battle fatigue is recite a mantra and be consistent. What is your affirmation? What is the sentence in mind? What is the thoughts? What is it that you can do to make sure that you are consistent on your journey? One of the things that I always love to say is from the book The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's when you want something, the universe always conspires to give it to you. So when I have my moments during this fight, when I'm like, I'm fighting for justice, I'm fighting for Breonna Taylor, I'm fighting for Ahmaud Arbery, it's what I want. And when you want it, the universe will conspire to give it to you. One thing that I have, and some of these tips are coming from a blog post from 3 years ago that I wrote, is create a list, a daily rhythms list, right? So what are the rhythms of your day looking like? If you're niching down your journey, you know that you are not engaging in the work all the time. You are engaging daily, but you're not overconsumed in the process. So what does that look like for you in your day? What is that rhythm on this journey? Another thing we want to do is to keep our bodies busy. We can sing, we can dance, we can walk around barefoot, whatever we need to do to keep ourselves grounded by keeping our body in motion. That's one way that can help us with racial battle fatigue. And then the one thing I always tell folks is to journal, brain dump, whatever's in your head, get it out and write it down. Because depression is merely pressing in the feelings and emotions. And so if you are, all of us who are Black, brown, indigenous, folks who are co-conspirators, allies, accomplices, whatever you're going by these days, get that energy out of your body. Get that energy, get that out of you. Hence today's self-care challenge, or this week's challenge, was the brain dump. Any moment you think you're overthinking or over-processing, write that shit down. Because literally, that's why we're fighting. That's what this battle fatigue looks like. It's the constant thoughts. It's the constant thinking, and trying to figure out, like, man, I'm really fighting hard for doing the best I can to be an activist, doing the best I can to be an ally, and it's not enough. And, you got to work on that self-talk on this journey. For those of us who are Black and brown, we want to fight racial battle fatigue. Got to get our sound healing on. We got to get our therapy on. We got to get it into circles and communities, specifically by us, for us, to make sure that we're supported as we actively fight against white supremacy. So that's just a little bit about racial battle fatigue and like just different tips to overcome the burnout that comes with this journey. It's always sustainable. You got to make sure you're sustaining yourself as you fight for inequities. One of the things that I did not say is that I'm really trying to do is make sure you're not watching the news. I think I've been saying this every single week. Like, we need to know what's happening, but maybe like give yourself 15 minutes on the BBC versus American news, because American news is really created to drive up our anxiety, our fight and flight response. I mean, think about it. You look at the screen and then you have the words, the new normal, and it kind of sucks you in. And so just making sure of how much media you're taking into is always really helpful on this journey. Hey friend, hey Rosa. So that's a little bit about racial battle fatigue. And then, as usual, what we do on Mondays, friends, if you're new here, we do a little bit of intention setting. If you know what that means, basically it's the question of, what are you doing to keep your privilege in check? What are you doing to stay on your journey? It's an intention. It is the goal. It is, what am I doing to make sure that I am intentionally participating on my anti-racism journey? That's my question, y'all, to you all, in hopes that someone will watch this and be inspired on their journey. So what are you doing this week to work on your relationship with privilege and the systems of domination? Isabel, you know this one if you're still here. Let's see. 'Cause Leaving space for silence. Jay, you watched the Mindful of Space webinar yesterday. How was that? Any did you like get any new aha moments? Studying to diversify our non-NGO board. Good, Bill. What are you doing? How do you know that you're going to diversify that? What does that look like? What are some of your ideas? For those of you who don't know what Mindful of Space is, it is a workshop from earlier this year. It's now a webinar that really helps folks understand how white folks understand you are not mindful of the space that you take up in the world. You took 5 pages, girl. What? I'm glad you watched it again. That's what's up. Let's see. Making calls. That's what's up, Carolyn. Oh, I'm back. That was me, not Instagram. Nina, 2-week break. You're getting back into the weekly conversations about anti-racism in your school. My mental health. Love that priority. Expanding from mostly my white network. You spoke to a person of color today. Okay. You're reading a new book, Mindful of Race. That is a really good book. And you've enrolled in an anti-racism class. And this Friday is the next class. Okie dokie. There we go. So classes, books, expanding from your mostly white network. You guys know what? If you're not bringing marginalized folks to the table with you to make systemic change, you're going to duplicate the system because that's how it works. So if marginalized folks don't have a seat at the table, you are continuing to put whiteness at the center of the conversation. The nasty woman. You've been involved in the community, volunteering for any event you can get to, talking to people, come home, do research on American history, real American history. Yes, that's how we do it. The one thing and the easiest thing that we can do is making sure that we vote, making sure we're registered to vote. If you have a neighbor who can't get to the polls, make sure they're registered to vote. You guys know what I mean? It's that season. One night per week, you and your husband watch Black, Brown, Indigenous, Person of Color focused documentaries or shows. When They See Us, 13th, Atlanta, and Blackish. That's very simple. That's good. All right. And no, this is not good or bad binary. Jay, it's the first brick in the foundation of a new value system. You're going to color and listen to Unpacking White Saviorism. You know what, Jay? I'm going to do a new Unpacking White Saviorism in the spring. You're in the lounge, so you know what that means. But yeah, excited about that one. You're going through the workbook by Layla, Me and White Supremacy. Good. Reading I'm Still Here by Austin Channing Brown. Learning to have the information in words when I talk with white friends and family. Exactly why people need to listen. I have nothing to say about these issues. You're reading Cast. That is a really excellent book. Mindful of Space. Click the link in the bio. It's under workshops. All of our workshops are pop up, so you'll see. I think you'll see Check Your Privilege, Create Equity, Breaking the Addiction of Privilege for October, and that's probably the second one, so you'll see that. You're doing the 21-day Black Liberation Challenge. It's good, amazing, sounds dope. How can I bring more marginalized people into my circle without approaching in an ignorant way? Okay, honey, I want you to save that for Friday because that's when we do our Q&A. You're doing a discussion tonight, Bill, on how to be anti-racist. Awesome. All right. Yeah, so Friday's here. For those of you who are new on Fridays, we do our Q&A for the week where we check out. You can ask the questions. We'll respond to the questions. Hopefully they're super appropriate. If they're former questions, we'll tell you, hey, we just talked about that 2 weeks ago on the live. But yeah, we do our Q&As on Friday. Your books came. Oh, so excited, Carol. Speaking of that, we're going to be announcing the new book next week, so stay tuned to that. That's more exciting news. Your grandmother's poll tax receipt on the wall. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for checking in with me today on our Monday intention setting. Loved Green Book and Selma this week, helping with voting. Yes. Dismantling white supremacy dialogue circles to move towards action. Yes. The Fire Next Time. That's one of my favorite books. y'all are on it. I like this intention setting we got this week, y'all. Thank you. Thank y'all for giving tips to folks who are new to our account, who don't really know where to start and what to do, because you might be overconsumed or oversaturated with how to just go. So thank y'all for sharing that. That's amazing. According to Weezy's Book Club and Community Calls, absolutely. Absolutely. For those of you who don't know, we also have, we call it the Lounge. It is our version of Patreon. You get a monthly masterclass as well as Q&A calls once a month, twice a month. You get to hang out, actually 3 times a month, because there's the masterclass, there's the nonviolent communication practice, and there's a Q&A call. So there's 3 ways to hang out once a month. So make sure you click the link in bio and find out about the lounge as well. See you guys Wednesday. What happens Wednesday? We're on YouTube and Facebook Wednesday doing an interview. You'll see that tomorrow. Then we're back here on Instagram Friday. But until we see you guys on Friday, please keep living into the work. If you send us messages, last thing I'm going to say before I head off, if you send messages here to check your privilege, just know there are several people, like interns and team members, who access the account. So any responses, they're not me. I'm just going to be honest. It's hundreds and thousands of you all who follow this. So just be really mindful that I'm not usually the one responding. You'll know when I'm responding because there'll be initials. All right, y'all. Well, y'all have a great week. See you Wednesday and Friday. And until next week, you guys keep living into your work. Much love. Okay. My settings have changed, so